Here at Unfinished Business Television, we are proud affiliate partners of the site Super 7, the home of all your needs for classic 80s and 70s action figures and apparel. Be sure to support our show by using the link super7.com/AJEpics when you check out for any product in their store. We hope you can support us in our endeavors.
Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Unfinished Business Television. As always, once you see we have an extra screen, it means we have a special guest. But first, let me introduce myself. I am Jeff Galashaw, Unfinished B2 on social media. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Andre Joseph.
It is an honor to be in the presence of royalty today.
Truly it is. Before I introduce our guest, let me just read my Behind the Actor Studio intro. Our special guest for this episode has had many memorable roles across the big screen and television screens that left many teenage hearts aflutter as being one of the earliest examples of on-screen crushes for me and Andre both, and for many of you out there. She should be instantly recognizable as she has been acting since the 1980s and is still very active. She is an all-star, as straight out from the beginning, she had a winning streak with such films as the teenage classic, The Last American Virgin, and further, her streak with Amityville 2, The Possession, Better Off Dead, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. She has also guest starred on memorable television shows such as Matlock, Charles in Charge, Murder, She Wrote, and a personal fave, Encyclopedia Brown, that was on HBO. And she has also written memoirs of her big screen titled The Excellent Adventure of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 1980s. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm applause for Miss Diane Franklin.
Bonjour. Cheers. Hi, everybody.
So, Diane, thank you so much for joining us and taking this time to talk to us, because we've been big fans since we were kids. Tell us, what got you started in acting?
I wanted to be an actress, I think from the age of 4, literally 4 years old. I knew. It's funny how kids, I work with kids, I teach kids, and kids come up to me and say, I want to be an actor, not I want to be an actress. And I'm going to tell you something. I take them seriously, because if you feel it at such a young age, that feels comfortable to you. That feels like you just know. And, it's kind of hard because parents don't often listen to their kids. Like they think, oh yeah, you want to be an actor, whatever, that'll change, it does change if you realize that that's not what you like, what the actual work is. You know what I'm saying? Like I know my daughter at first, the first thing she wanted to be was a vet. But then when she realized that the vets have to put animals to sleep, she was like, no, I don't want to do that. Right. So, once you start realizing, okay, what's the life like as an actor? That's why we say, like, you have to really love it. And so, I started when I actually wanted to do it when I was 4, and my parents took me to a agency, or I don't even know how they knew. My parents were German immigrants. They talk like this. They were like, I don't understand the business, but okay, will do this. So they had no idea. And my parents had me later in life, so they were almost like grandparents raising me. And I was raised as an only child. My sister, my half sister, was married like very early, like I was probably 3 or 4. So they were able to concentrate on me. And so when I really wanted to do it, I had a lot of energy and a lot of personality. And my parents took me to an agency when I was young, and or somebody, I don't even know. And they said, no, sure, her hair is too short and curly. Cut to Monique later, years later. And they said, no, she's not going to work, because that time, during that time in the 70s, or no, 60s, actually, everything was very all American, blonde, blue eyes. It was just a whole different thing. And even kids acting were more tomboys. So I was like, okay. So like I heard that at such a young age. Like I went, okay, all I have to do is grow my hair, and I didn't know, like, grow up, be in the business. And I didn't realize how hard it was to get an agent at the time too. Like, I mean, I'm 4, right? So I just kept singing and dancing and acting and in school plays and school productions, and just put myself out there. And I think that's really, again, important. If your child does this, pay attention. It's not a passing phase. I mean, I will say that so many people that I know who wanted to be actors have still found a way to be in the limelight. And I will say that even in sports, in journalism, in broadcasting, in even teaching, you shine. That's like such an important part of our soul, a person's soul. You can shine in so many ways. But what happened for me is I was very stubborn, and I really stayed in it. And when I hit 10 years old, I again said to my parents, okay, I'm 10 years old. I've waited. My hair's grown out. Let's try again. And I think it's kind of funny because, as a parent, you might think, your kid's going to forget, but your kids don't forget. They really want to do it, right? I'm sure with you guys, even, it's so, you don't forget. You remember, like, and you remember the feeling, and you remember, I don't know, it's built in. Okay. Being in the entertainment is built in. So for me, when I started again, and again, my parents had no connections. They didn't know anything about the entertainment business. And by the way, if you want to know even more detail, it's in my first book, Excellent Adventures. But I wrote that book just for people who really want to be actors, and they don't have necessarily the support system. But then, like, that you need to start understanding. You go from relying on your family to now, how am I going to make this happen? And the only thing I want to say is, the one thing I did as a child, which was really important, is I never gave up on my dreams and my belief in what I wanted to give to the audience, and if you feel like you've got something to offer, take it seriously, because no one's going to take it as seriously as you. You're going to be the one to make things happen. So I'm sorry, I'm on and on. You probably just want to ask another question.
No, this
but
is great.
No.
There's the first question, right?
Okay. My question, when you started your first film, The Last American Virgin, how did it feel, I guess, being on your first really professional film set, and you're in like one of the leading roles? Can you like remember, like, maybe your first day, what it felt like, all the cameras, the crew, and everything?
Oh my gosh. Well, so that's a great question. And thank you for asking, Jeff, because, I started acting when I was 10, and I did commercials and modeling and theater and a soap opera. And I was an extra on a film called Endless Love. With Brooke Shields. I was an extra. I was behind the scenes. So by the time I got Virgin, first of all, I had been in the entertainment business in New York. Okay. The hardest place to get work. You have to be pretty tough as a child to go, take the subways, take the buses. I was with my mom. Every day, like auditioning thousands of auditions. So many of them I didn't get, but keep going and learning how to be a professional, learn my place, learn to, be with adults. Like, just, it was a very, it was great training, it was really, and it gave me appreciation So when it did hit, I knew what my opportunity was. So when I did Virgin, first of all, again, I in my book I write about the audition. But when I actually got the opportunity and I got the film, I really valued it. I knew ahead of time in my head that this was my chance to shine and show myself as an actress. And, it's interesting because that film, we didn't even know if it was going to come out. Like it's an indie film. And at that time, indie films didn't get the distribution. There was no Netflix or Hulu. There was only the movie theaters. So we had no idea that film would even be, even if you shot it, would it be out? It's amazing and it's a miracle to me to be able to even talk about it today, 40 years later, whatever, to say, wow, that film came out. It's still memorable and it still means something for so many people. But in answer to your question, so I remember that when they flew me out to Los Angeles, and when I had the audition in Los Angeles, and when I was told I got it, I had to stay. So like I actually had the call back, the audition, and when I was in Los Angeles, and then they said, okay, so now you're staying for a month. So when I came from New York to Los Angeles, I had to be ready to stay. And I was 19 years old, and I came by myself. And I mean, could you imagine? I can't even imagine having my daughter do that. But because of the experience I had, the training I had, I was ready. And I knew how to handle myself. And, I'm going to tell you something. So much of the acting business, you learn your craft, you learn what you're doing, you watch, you're ready, you memorize lines, you are in the moment, you want to, as an actor, bring everything forward. But between the takes, you really have to know how to handle yourself. And you really have to know how to talk to adults. You have to know how to have your boundaries. You have to know how to be a team player, to be a leader and a follower, right? And know when that's safe or not safe. And when I got Virgin, I had been working and I had a manager and agent, and people were there to help me. I think it's really important to have a support system, especially obviously when you're young. Now, 19 is over 18, so technically you're adult in the entertainment business. But let's face it, you're 19. You're not even 21, okay? I couldn't even rent a car to drive in Los Angeles at the time. It was like, you know what I'm saying? You have to come. So actually, I didn't move to Los Angeles till I was 21 because I couldn't rent a car to drive by myself. So when I did Virgin, that was the first time like I was being driven everywhere. But that said, I was very confident. I knew how to handle myself. And so I wasn't timid about speaking up. But on that first day, I remember waking up in the hotel and thinking, wow, I got this. I got it. I'm a lead in a film. And I knew how to bring and I say this really, truly, to bring my dignity and my message to the audience myself. I didn't expect someone else to take that on for me. I didn't expect someone to take care of me. I knew that it was my opportunity to show people what I can do in my talent. And I've been waiting a long time for that. So I really was very cognitive of the first day I was working. And the memories, I think I might even have written about it in my diaries. I have to go back and look and see. But I do remember thinking, and by the way, if you are an actor and you have experiences and you're young, write about it in a diary. Because write about how you feel, not what's happening, but like your experience, because that's really humanity. That's what's really important about our lives, is looking at our life and going, I can't believe this is happening to me, or even like whatever, it's so valuable. And it's what I wish I had did more of. I'm looking through my diaries now and going, how did I feel about that? And I was so young, and I didn't see myself as that young, That's the funny thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
when you're 16, you think on your like, wow, I know what's happening, or you know what I'm saying. You think you know, and then you get older and you go, oh wow, I didn't know everything I thought I did. So anyway, funny.
Yeah, Last American Virgin. I just watched it for the first time in its entirety the other day, and
Wow.
yeah, I've only
So
seen
sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's
Like,
okay. I
I'm
mean,
really a
I've only
nice
seen it in
person, but
clips of
I apologize.
no, it's all good. But yeah, it really was like surprising for me because in an era where you have Porky's and Animal House, here's a movie that has that kind of humor, but then it has this layer of reality to it. Like we all can be a Gary. Like we all have that moment of there's that loved one we really want and we can't get to. I'm just going to limit it to two questions for you on this. So my first question is the use of the song "Just Once" by James Ingram, which is one of my favorite songs ever. Was that pre-selected when you guys filmed, or was that after the fact? And if not, what song was used in place of it?
Wow, that's a very good question. Okay, so we shot the film first, but the editor was Bruya Davidson. That was the editor of the movie was the writer director's wife.
Oh.
And I loved her. She's such a great. She's still alive and she's awesome. And I loved how they worked as a husband and wife team to make this film. You know, that's kind of an amazing thing. My feeling was I thought she was kind of more involved in helping with finding the music, but I could be totally wrong. I just remember that we shot the film, and I know that they were looking to license things, which wasn't happening. People were not licensing popular music. To my knowledge, that was one of the first films that licensed popular music, which is why they got so many great artists, you know, because it was so early in the going. Um, that song though is interesting because it comes up so many times in the film. If to me, like what happens is you watch the film and you hear that song, and then all of a sudden it comes back again, and then it comes back again, and then it comes back again. And I almost wish like it becomes almost funny because you're like, wait, it's back again. But you leave the movie with that song in your head. And it is such a beautiful song. I mean, it's just a gorgeous song. So I don't think they had any other one in mind, but I do think that they kept thinking, what we have to put something here. And that song meant something to the moments of the movie. I think they wanted to keep that feeling. So that's the best I can bring. I don't know the background, but I would be interested to find out. I think that's a question for Boaz, which you could still ask him, you know, he's around. But I have to tell you that the film, if the film had any other ending, I don't think we'd be talking about it today.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have been just another film. I think the wonderful thing about The Last American Virgin is it speaks the humanity and truth of being a teenager. And that never goes away. And it happens for everyone. I mean, not that experience, but it's a timeless story. And you guys are filmmakers, right? Both of you?
Yeah, I am,
Yeah.
and just trying to be.
And I'm going to tell you something. Humanity never gets old, and it is what we all bond with. So when we experience that letdown in the film, and we can't believe it. I mean, literally, I've heard that people have been cursing me out, like echoes of cursing out. I don't blame them. I watch it, and I've seen it years later at screenings, and I was like, you don't see it coming. That's what's so. For me, my performance. When I got the film, I thought that they were going to change the ending. Literally, all of us thought, well, you're not going to have this ending. It's an American ending. It should be a happy ending. And when it ended that way, my job was to justify everything. I didn't want you to see it coming. And I think that that's what makes it so hard. If you saw me, you know, being a little, you know, two-sided, if you saw it coming, then you would have been like, yeah, I don't want him with her anyway. But because you wanted me with you, I think it does is it allows every guy to say, it could happen. You know, I can fall for somebody and it could happen. I would not see it coming because I'm in love. Love makes everyone blind. We don't see it coming, nor should we, because when you're in love, you are most likely both people are completely committed. You just don't see necessarily the nature of a person. You don't see their, you know, what they've maybe grown up with and how maybe you don't see everything. So, but I will say this: the fact that I wind up with the bad boy, you know, right? Like we often see like maybe the bad girl leave the bad guy, but to see the good girl with the bad guy at the end, you go, she's gonna get hurt again. It's gonna happen. She's gonna get dumped again. We know that as adults, you know. So I think that movie has a lot of depth.
So that would actually be my next question, which is if you had your own sort of fan fiction sequel, The Last American Virgin, where would you see Karen now?
Oh, I love you. I love you. You are exactly right. You know, they were gonna do a sequel. Well, it's interesting. They were going to Boaz, and I heard Brett Ratner also originally wanted to do, I don't know if it was a sequel, maybe a remake of Last American Virgin, which I think honestly would be great because with all the TikToks and the social media, you could do the same thing, but all with contemporary things. And I think kids would so identify with this. I mean, I think that's huge if someone wrote that. And I've even thought of like writing something. I think that a sequel, though, and I've actually talked to Lawrence about this too. We were like, yeah, let's do a sequel. That would have been interesting. I always saw myself as Karen being, this was my version. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so I always thought that Karen would be working at like, she had married Rick. She had like 3 kids. And then he was abusive. And you start the story where you maybe do a pan of him like physically abusing or something, but you don't see really things and the kids are screaming, whatever. And you cut to like, she's, you know, he leaves with another woman. And then you cut to like a mall and Karen's working at Hot Dog on a Stick. You know what I mean? And she's like working there and she's like a single, like she now has to raise the kids, single mom working there. And there's an escalator there and who comes up in the escalator but Gary, and he's now like a lawyer, like he's got it going on, and he's like between meetings or whatever, he comes up and he sees, like he orders like a drink and all of a sudden the faces rise and they see each other eye to eye and they're stuttering and he's stuttering and she's stuttering and he's like, Karen, you know. It's just right. And to me, that they would then go back and revisit the relationship, but now it's in an adult terms. And she is a woman and he is a man, and we get to see the scene that we've always wanted to see between them. You know, they're mature and there's lovemaking and da 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 da. And then he has the choice to where he gets to leave me or not. And that is what I think could be so interesting. He could break up with me just for the sake of being hurt. He could stay with me and we could live happily ever after. Or he could leave me for Rose. So that's my version of.
So would I.
Kind of interesting, right? We don't know. And you know, today you could even have 3 endings, shoot them, and let that be the movie that people want it to be.
True.
I don't know. Let's make it. So like, kind of interesting.
Sign me up.
So that's my personal idea. I just always saw that thing where Gary's made it and Karen is you know, she's still not cognitive, but she feels bad and she feels bad about it, but yeah, that's what kind of thought. So
okay. Well, my next question is about Terror Vision. which I only saw very recently for the first time. I just wanted to know, like, when you were acting in it, did you realize it was more kind of an out there satire? And did you have to take your character like a little more seriously to stay grounded in all of this wackiness? Or like, what was your, I guess, kind of mindset when playing in this film? And
Thank you. Okay, great question. And thank you for asking it today, because we all often when we watch a film, we think that the people who made it are not very smart. Like, oh, they don't know what they're making. This is really that. We see it in contemporary terms, right? So when
Mhm.
we did TerraVision, okay, first of all, yeah, Ted Nicolai, again, writer director. I love writer directors. Because you get to see your vision on screen after you create it. And this is such a gift. Like, again, that's what's so wonderful about indie films, because it's like we get to see the vision of the person who came up with that concept. So here's another example. Ted Nicolai knew this was a live action cartoon that was a parody of the 80s. And when we all got it, we knew it was hilarious, because we knew, like, this is a parody of contemporary times. Actors have to be very aware of the times you live in, the times you grow up in, and what that means to everyone around, to the world. Do you know what I'm saying? What are we saying?
Mhm.
And we're always in that. Actors have to be very aware of, and I don't care, like, even small part, big part, you are making commentary on the world we live in. Okay. So in that particular case, it was a comment about, it was an over the top version, and we all knew it. And Mary Warnov and I were like, we just thought it was hilarious. And we thought it was a brilliant film. And we thought that film would kick butt and be like huge when we made it. But the problem was that it was released in the 80s. So nobody got it. Like, what I'm saying is, what becomes popular culture in America takes a while to actually get through the entire world. So there's places in the world now which are just discovering the 80s. They're really actually just finding the 80s cool, because it's just getting to them. And thank you. I think that's awesome and it's great, but they'll never get how sometimes over the top and crazy it is until, a lot of time has passed. So TerraVision, okay, we loved the film, we enjoyed it, we knew what it was. And when I came in, I tried to, when I created the character, I tried to cram in as many aspects of the 80s into one person as I could. So we had, like, I was a punk rocker that was kind of shown in the clothes, then the Cyndi Lauper look, bright colors, right? So, like, the look was combining punk with the Cyndi Lauper thing, but also the Valley Girl. Like, oh my God, like OD, like that kind of thing. Which, by the way, my dear friend Deborah Foreman, who was in Valley Girl, she's a friend of mine, and I loved her in that film. And when I actually met her, I was like, I am a fan of yours. You are amazing. But I had to take that world that she was in, which was very serious and was actually, I'm telling you, Valley Girl was how it was really in the 80s. So here I am parodying, just like Bill and Ted's took Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High and
Mhm.
brought that back. So, or parodied, that world. So TerraVision is definitely a parody. I hope that people enjoy it watching it, because it's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be ridiculous, and you're supposed to get the inside jokes.
Okay. And also, how heavy was the wig that you were wearing throughout that film?
That it wasn't too bad, but it was hard to balance because it was 3 wigs. And we
Wow.
discovered that when we were actually shooting. Like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, we're definitely having this look. Everything about that film was discovered in time. So I remember sitting, and the fashion, the hair and makeup woman, who was just amazing. People who do hair and makeup, that's the most fun part of their job, is when you come and sit down, they are actually creating the character with you. So we tried one wig, and then we were like, and my hair was short from Better Off Dead. So that's why we started with one, and then it was like, well, let's try this top, a top one, and like, wait, what if we put another one? And like, wait, what if we like sprayed it? Like it was all in the moment, and I just
Hmm.
love that. I love the Susie Putterman's character. I love how she looks, and I was like loving it because I had always paid, like you can see Ingenues or even in Amityville, the victim. So here it was, I was toting a machine gun, and I was so power girl. I was,
Hmm.
I was it was one of the first times that I was able to, I mean, Better Off Dead, I played a capable girl, but this was even taking it further. And so I was very fortunate as an actress to play these roles. But again, I had to show it. I had to show it in the audition that I could take on that character.
Yeah, staying on the horror track, I want to circle back to Amityville too, because we actually have some mutual friends. Rutanya Alda, who is one of my Facebook friends, very sweet. I've been talking to her back and forth for years.
Oh, great.
And
Awesome.
I had met Burt Young at the Long Beach Film Festival many years ago, and
Wow.
very sweet to me. Miss him every day. But my question is, for a movie that's so doom and gloom as a horror film, and we know what's coming, how was it to work with people that are so sweet behind the scenes, but then they have to hate each other on set?
Well, as a filmmaker, it's so important to have actors who are professional. And part of being professional is knowing when you're a character and when you're a person. And some people, obviously, there's like method where you carry it with you. And I totally respect that. If someone's into that, I mean, even when we were shooting, like I'm going to say, like, even, I don't know where Jack Magner was, if his training, but he would isolate more because that was important part of his character. So yeah, things do triple over, like go over the line of your character, but then you some people can come in and out of it, and some people, they hold on to it because they're creating the dynamic in the film. And that's the actor's choice. Everyone has their way and their what works best for them. And I really believe that when you are an actor, you learn all the techniques, but then you decide what feels right for you, and then you stand up for yourself, like you stick to that because that's important for you creating the world. So what was really nice is my goal when I did Amityville 2 was to work with professionals, to learn from them. So I was very excited to work with Britannia and Bert and James Olsen and Andrew Prine. They were to me, because Virgin and Last American Virgin, we were all newbies. We were all people who we were working together as a team, and it's most memorable and awesome. I loved working on that film. We're a family. Do you know what I'm saying? We work all together. And we're friends till this day. We're all friends. With Amityville, I knew that was my opportunity to watch how people work. And it was a great, I don't know, it was so funny with Bert, he was so intense, but at the same time, because he was so friendly and so nice, between shots, I could trust him. And that's what actors need to do, is to develop a trust. And Britannia was so wonderful to me, and she was so caring, and we have a friendship to this day. I mean, I help her, and she helps me, and she's wonderful. And I think that as actors to actors, you really influence each other. Older actors are role models for younger ones, and we set the bar of what should be happening on set, and how we should behave with others. Um, and actors wind up spending more time together. You know how like the crew comes together and the actors come together. And that's not to say that they shouldn't all come together, but it's a similar understanding of what is necessary. Crew has to stay focused. They have to stay in the moment. In any second they might be needed. They need to be able to, know when to be quiet, and also know when to, when they can relax, where to go. And the actors feel that from the crew. When a crew is sharp and they know what's going on, it relaxes the actor and they go, okay, good, we're on a professional set. You're talking about like, you know, a commercial film versus an indie film. A commercial set, there's a lot of money riding on the line. And so everyone knows that their job is really important. They're going to stay on point. But an indie set may have people, they might have friends of so-and-so working on it. They may have this. So they may not understand the importance of everyone really doing their job when needed, and we can relax and have like, you know, party later. So the director is the person who sets that tone. And Damian Damiani on a horror film, he sets the tone. So like a comedy director sets the tone and keeps it light, everyone's fun. A horror director, okay, we're going to the set, you know, Damiano thought it was quiet on the set, you know, he would know that he created the mood, because the actor can't do that. It's the director. So I really like that film taught me so much about actually dramatic acting, you know, and it taught me with Virgin, that was, I mean, it's funny, Virgin has its drama too, but it was a different tone on the set. So I just think I love horror films, and I'm really grateful that I did that film, because I learned it at a high level. It was great.
That's true. I guess my question, as a professional actress, when did you feel like you had finally made it? You know, like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. You know, that comfort, I guess you
I
could say.
love you. I love you too. I love both of you now. That's a great question. When did it feel like I made it? Wow. You know, I'm gonna have to say when I felt that was Better Off Dead, when I got that part, because even though, yeah, I got the other films, and it's funny, I never knew that I was successful. I knew it was interesting when I did Last American Virgin and Last American Virgin and Amityville 2, those films came out in the same year. So I was now on the radar, and I got a lot of opportunity to audition for things and work on things. I did a pilot for ABC. And if that pilot had gone, I would have been a television actress. And so there were moments in my career where I was like, up to the moment, okay, we have to try it again. Up to the moment. I starred in a TV movie for CBS, and I thought, oh, here I am. But I think the reason why I say Better Off Dead was because now I was auditioning for a part that a lot of times you audition for things and you don't, like, I'm not Karen, and I'm not an evil person babysitter, and I'm not the victim, but Better Off Dead was closest to me, who I was, and she was a good person. Monique's a good person. She is very capable, and she can do what she wants to do. And there is nobody can tell her what to do. She knows what to do, the right thing. And for me, I thought that is success. I got to play somebody that I would want to see. That role, I would want to go see this movie personally, and I would want to be that character. So that to me was success. But there's no guarantee you will ever play what you want to. You play what others want you or others see you as. But honestly, that's what I think is really fun about acting. Because if you're playing just yourself, well, you can do that. But if someone sees something in you and they go, I bet she can play this. Oh, that's exciting. Like I had a guy, directors contact me and say, I want you to play this particular part in a movie called Waking Nightmare. And I was like, how can you see that? Like, I love that you see that, but how can I gave him a lot of credit for seeing me in the part, because I had to play somebody so scary. And I thought, good for you. Like, that's what I like. I like a director has vision, who sees something that maybe other people don't, and is willing to take a chance, So there you go.
Yeah, so on Better Off Dead, I mean, you're working with Savage Steve Holland, and all his movies
Yes.
have that heightened degree of comedy where everything is like a living cartoon. You know, you got Cusack, you got Curtis Armstrong. It's like, how do you keep it straight working on that set?
Amazing. Okay, by the way, for those of you who don't, I brought my book here because I wanted to show people what I look like. So, okay, my hair straight. Now I do like, I mean, I'm still acting. The reason why I'm like a little lighter and blonder is because I'm playing different parts, but I'm always going to go back to the curly, and dark. So don't worry about it. It's coming back. But this is what I looked like in Better Off Deads for those who haven't seen the film. And if you want more details, this is the book to get. Excellent comedy. Blah blah blah. Diane Franklin. But anyway, this movie was a dream to work on because it was so. I love the humor, and back then, things that were just funny were not in the theater because people thought, well, why did you just put it on TV if it's going to be funny? Because there's nothing like, there's no violence, there's no sex, there's no bad language, there's no guns, or like whatever. It's like, why? And now of course all that's on TV regardless, but there was a time where that was not on TV, people. That's so crazy to think that. And so for me, when I got that script, we were all kind of, wait, this is actually going to be a movie. It's hilarious. And even like Amanda Wiss, who played Beth, we thought it was so funny. So we did a staged reading. Savage had us all sit at a table and read it. And when we sat at that table, we had no idea what everyone's version of their character was. We thought the script was so funny, but we had not seen it. We didn't see it. I must tell you guys, we sat at that table and we did this reading, and the voices came to life. And I was talking like this, and nobody had known that I would talk like a French girl like this. Of course, they knew I was French, but they did not hear it in their voice, right? And Mrs. Smith, she would talk like that, reggae. She was suddenly that voice. And Curtis, I've been going to this school, 7 years, whatever, And John with I don't know, like just his phrasing, his cadence, and Beth, and Aaron, and all the voices, we died. We just died. So we knew that when we were on set, we knew once those voices were then dressed in costume. It was, I guess it was just because we had done it and we were able to it, but no, it was extremely difficult. We did break, we did laugh, and the crew laughed. The crew died. The crew would be like, they're like, oh, I can't. And you try to make a film no matter what, but I'm really grateful now people are doing bloopers, because those moments between making a film and making a funny film are gold. And we wish that they had those bloopers or extra footage from that time. But during that, when we made Better Off Dead in 1985, bloopers were erased because you had it on film. And so the film was valuable, and you had to like get rid of anything that you weren't actually going to use. It was expensive. So yeah, it was amazing. And I have details in my book about like all the times we broke, but I have to tell you, every moment of making a film is magical, and we want to value it. And if you say to yourself, if I looked back from 10 years from now, 20, 30, what do I wish I had done in that film? Like if you're a filmmaker and you're thinking, or what do I wish I had kept, or, take pictures, it's special. And you know what? I have to say one more thing. Savage Steve Holland, who wrote and directed the film, he's done so many things in his life, but Better Off Dead is still his favorite. Like it's his baby. And because I wrote this book and stuff, he is so grateful that I keep, talking about it and keeping it alive, because he loved that film, and that was very meaningful to him. He was 24 when he directed that.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's a
Mhm.
baby. Like, could you imagine? It's like, when you're a kid and you make your films, like you said, what was the first day working on Last American Virgin like for me? No one can take that away from you. It's just, it gives you a lot of confidence and happiness, really happiness, no matter what happens in your career. That's what I mean. Like, just enjoy it and revel in it.
Definitely,
Appreciate
because
it, right?
exactly, because that was the beginning of you working with Savage Steve Holland, and over the years, you guys have obviously worked together more and more times. Like on Encyclopedia Brown, you guest starred on an episode. How I Got Into College.
Yeah, right.
And now with that movie, I know he wasn't the original director. Had you been cast before he came onto the film, or after he kind of took it over?
After, which is good.
Okay.
Here's the interesting part with Savage, or in acting. Okay, so you're saying, when do people make it? There's you see, like, sometimes you see a director and he brings back his actors, because the actors he works with not only exemplify their work, but he works very well with that person. He knows how to work. He doesn't have to tell them a lot. He knows, like you have just a good relationship. And I always enjoyed the camaraderie on, let's say, was it like, there are a lot of improv actors who have that, like Best in Show. What I was going to say, all the actors that were working together on that, they all knew each other, and it's just wonderful seeing different roles. So when Savage asked me to come back and work on things, like I was actually in One Crazy Summer, but they had to cut the scene. Like, he brought me back, and to me, that was such a gift. I thought, look how life is now. That's nice when a director asks you to come back and work with them again. That means you represent their work. That means they like what they want to find something for you. And that's the biggest compliment to me. That is just a wonderful thing. I love it when directors want to bring you back, because that means that you represent the tone of what they want. So it's not just like, oh, I liked your performance. It's like, you represent part of my work, and that made me really happy. So Savage did that with a bunch of actors. He did that with Curtis. He brings Curtis back. He brought the mailman, Taylor Negro.
Taylor.
Yeah, he brought him back to the things, because that kind of represents his sense of humor, and he knows how to work with people with him. But no, that in One Crazy Summer, I was called in later. And I remember thinking that role was so funny, me playing the mom. And
Yeah.
call me mom, right?
Would you say that was when you started playing maybe older characters, or were moving out of playing teenagers all the time also?
That's a good question. I was playing teens for such a long time. And the big thing is, even with agents and managers, is, can you get out of playing the teen, and can you start playing more adults? And I did a few roles. I did I played a teacher on The Big Easy. I played I think it was probably a pregnant teen, probably, on Finders of Lost Love. Then Matlock, I sort of, slowly, it was more television. I think probably has to do with a couple of things. I could play roles, but roles are mostly written for teen stories at that time. Teens were the ones who were teens were watching teens, and the parent would be, or the adult character would be in those movies, just like, you need the token mom, the token dad. You need somebody to establish that relationship, or the family. But it was hard playing more adult characters, because I think if I had been on a television show, it might have moved me to the next level. But making that transition was hard. And for me, that's when I decided to get married and have kids. So I thought, okay, then I will work, but it's time for me I had my big, that was the 80s was my time. And when we move into the 90s, now what was big, it's got to make room for the next generation. So I was fine with it because actually I did so much work in the 80s and I was so happy with it. But now it was time to fill the cup. In acting, you show everything, then you come in, you fill the cup, you live life, you get those deeper experiences, marrying kids and the perspective and the experiences. And then, I didn't ever, and I never thought I'd be acting again, actually, to tell you the truth. I thought when I had family, that was it. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll appreciate what I had, and that was it. But then my daughter had started making movies, and computers started coming home. Computers started being made, and she was like, "Mom, I need a mom, and I need this character." And I was like, "Okay, all right." Like I really didn't. I was like, "All right." And then she was so funny. I mean, in life, when you have kids, you just do it. You do it because you love your kids, and it's so. You see them and you see yourself through their eyes. And so, yes, so that's how my career started once again because of my daughter. I was Olivia De Laurentiis, or was a comedian, so she's on TikTok. So
I know our time is
yeah.
limited, but I can't help but to ask you before you go about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, because I
Most
grew up.
triumphant.
Yes, and that was my first exposure to you as the princess. I know that movie was shot 2 years before it came out. So when you filmed it, did you know it was going to be a hit? And then why didn't they bring you back for Bogus Journey?
Oof, nice questions. This is a great topic because Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. When I auditioned, I think they auditioned me for the part of Missy originally. I think I don't even remember, except for the fact that, and I didn't even know as much of what it was. But then when I was in the audition, they said, "Oh, can you play someone from England?" And I said, "Of course I can play someone from England and talking like this." And they were like, "Oh my gosh, would you mind playing a princess?" And I'm like, okay, sure. Like we didn't even understand what that meant. I was like, sure. So when I got the part and we did it, we really liked the film. We thought it was very fun and funny, but we didn't know what it was going to become. We had no idea. And it was interesting because I guess like Better Off Dead, there was nothing, bad about it in sense of like language or, violence or anything at the time. So we actually did think, oh, it's going to come out. We had no idea that somebody would even not consider putting it out. Like it was sort of like, well, why wouldn't you? Like there's so many other films out, let's make it happen. And then they held it, and then it came out in 1989. And again, there we go, in the entertainment business, you don't know what's going to happen. You do work and you think one film's never going to come out, and then you think, oh, this is going to come out, and it doesn't. So patience. Patience. Crossing your fingers. In fact, actually, it's very funny. I did a film maybe like 10 years ago, and it is just today, this month, is going to be having a screening. So there's even another movie that I did so long ago that is actually going to have a premiere that I'm going to see that I haven't seen. So it's fascinating. It's just economics. But Bill and Ted. So we thought the only thing about Bill and Ted's when it came out, it was good, but we thought we were going to be in the sequel because there were princesses. And so there was no reason to think that it wasn't going to be us. And then the next thing was that we were auditioning for our own parts. And that was, I have to say, part 2, okay? We actually had to audition for our own roles, which if they were French princesses or Egyptian princesses or any other type, Indian princesses, it would have been like, okay, I get that. But because they were the same character, that to me was, you talk about a good thing in the entertainment business and a bad. That was an insult. Because that's like, wait, what we can do. We can play the character. And it wasn't different. It was not anything different as a character. So that was hard. Kimberly and I were both we were shocked. Like, we were like, what is happening? And um it's just not cool. Let's just say that's not cool.
Yeah.
So, but we didn't
Yeah.
know that it was also going to become the next, another Bill and Ted's. But when the Bill and Ted's became Face the Music came, we thought, oh, they made a mistake. It was a director. They kept switching directors, and they kept saying, oh, it was the director's decision. And it's never the director's decision. It's the money decision. I don't know. Whoever has the money has the say in my vision. But basically, when the third one came out, we thought, oh, well, maybe this will be the opportunity because the princesses are back in. And it's not like the princesses have a lot of dialogue necessarily. It's just that, so we were very surprised again. And we even said, we'll fly out on our own dime, we'll be there. But I have to say, I think that's going to be one of the big mysteries. But I will tell you that I was very happy that Keanu and Alex were able to play themselves. I was kind of surprised that Face the Music wasn't focusing on the young ones being the new Bill and Ted's. But I guess within the series, there's time for that, and hopefully hopefully there'll be princes in the next one. Or maybe it could be princesses. It's a new world. There could be princesses meet the girls. You never know. So who knows which direction they're going to take it in. But I will say I was happy that Alex and Keanu got the parts, did that. And we were just sad, just generally sad that we weren't part of it again. But we know that anyone who watches the series will probably watch the first. So we shall keep the princesses, hopefully will be forgotten as the originals.
Well, listen, I mean, they're sort of talking about a fourth one.
Yeah.
Multiverse thing going on with Marvel and DC. We can multiverse Bill and Ted and have
Yes. Oh, that would be
Yes.
an idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. By the way, on a side note, you asked the right question, because I worked with Keanu in that was 1987, and I have not seen him since. But I went to his concert. He is now with a band called Dog Star, and you asked the perfect question. And part of me was like, I haven't spoken to him. I've seen Alex. I've spoken to Alex in person. I've seen him, but I haven't seen Keanu because Keanu is so famous. He can't even have any contact. It's too hard, which is really, I gotta say, telling you, life is tough. You think movie stars, it can be very lonely. It can be very isolating. It's not like you can do whatever you want. Everything you do is written down, people care about whatever. But I did go to the concert, and I said to the security people, I said, can you tell Keanu that Diane Franklin's out here? And I didn't know if he'd come out. I didn't know if he'd even remember me, right? You're thinking, what? I'm the princess, right? And and he came out, and he was so happy to see me. And he was so nice. And he said, let's come over here, let's talk. And he took me like over and away from everybody. And we talked for 15 minutes. And I asked him how he was, and I just want to tell you, he is as nice as he says, as everyone says. He is as nice, and it was so sweet of him to remember. And he was like, "Have you talked to Alex?" And he just was the Keanu that you hope he is. So Princess Elizabeth approves of Ted, and it was most excellent seeing Ted play on stage the bass. He was doing, he kept up the band. So even though I wasn't in it, I don't play piano. There's no piano in the band. I have to say, most triumphant.
All right. So, Jeff, any last questions for Diane before she logs off?
Okay. This is more of a funny question, since you have starred in your daughter's short films. Do you think you were typecast, or do you find yourself being her muse?
I love that. My daughter, Olivia, oh my gosh, someday you will see the film she made. I mean, with me as in it. I mean, we did a movie where I played a sort of a pregnant grandmother, and we have a chicken. I'm in a Build-A-Bear outfit, like wearing a little leather jacket. I can't even begin to tell you how fun our life is, and my kids. I have a son also, Nick. He's a classical musician, and he plays the upright bass, and but he also is in an indie band. So there you go. But Olivia is so funny, and so she was asking me to play so many different characters. And what's really fun is I just love acting with her, and we have a great time. And when she was very little, she was very like, you know, can you just remember the line? Can you stand here like? I'm like, okay, let's get this going, right? It's just great, you know. And but she is an angel. She is so sweet. Olivia does very kind of body comedy, like if you see on TikTok, she does it with Sid and Olivia. And she is so funny and so smart. She writes all her material. She and Sid write all their stuff. Please check them out on TikTok. But also we've done sketches, and all the things I've done with her have been a blast and a dream. And typecast, I hope not. But yeah, we have a lot of fun. We have a great time acting together, and my son got roped into it when he was younger, so it was a very fun thing. And I have to tell you, you're as a filmmaker, if you make films and if younger people are watching, all your friends are doing it, and those are the memories that are so hilarious and so great. You get your friends in, you shoot these things, and it doesn't matter if it gets in a film festival or not. This is building. This is actually one of the most fun things. I remember Olivia shooting a film, and we saw craft service. We're shooting the film and the footage, and you see craft services in the background, but there's a scene, right? It's a period scene. And that's the lovely thing where you learn, and everything's a step. And that's, to me, I think the best part of filmmaking is the steps, and you get better and better, and you learn. And don't be shy. Don't be shy. Go after it. As Monique would say, kick ass. Right? Kick ass.
Well, Diane, again, this is such a pleasure to have you on, and we learned so
Yes.
much. And please, time. We have so many other questions to ask you.
I am anytime. I thank you. I really, really love that you're a filmmaker, and that you're just both adorable. And I'm so happy that I got a chance to meet you and do this show, because I love this. You're really nice people. You ask really interesting questions, and that makes I love being asked interesting questions. So thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we collaborate on something in the future too.
All right.
Yes, hopefully.
Send me your stuff.
I definitely will after this.
Okay. Good.
See, there you go. We like to honor and give flowers to actors who truly mean a lot to us, who make us smile when they show up on screen, in whatever capacity in a project. And we want to thank you, Diane Franklin, for all of your work and roles throughout the years. You have been an inspiration, muse, and artist in your own right, for us to not only be amazed by and big fans of, but for us to admire. We truly are appreciative of your time, and thankful for you talking with us, and just being so bubbly and energetic, and just a positive energy and spirit. And we want to thank you.
If you like this review, please be sure to like and hit subscribe to be alerted to new episodes in the future.